to the Stories of Resilience conversation with LGBTQ grandparents. I'm Stephanie Haynes, the director of Philly Family Pride. I'm actually your PFP admin Zoom host tonight. So I'm just going to turn it over to our board chair, Tariem Burroughs, who is going to lead us in the conversation this evening. So if anybody needs anything from me, feel free to ask me directly or indirectly in the chat, and let's take it away.
Cool. Thank you, Stephanie. As Stephanie said, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Tariem Burroughs, and I am the board chair of Philadelphia Family Pride. And as Stephanie said, welcome to the third session of our 12th annual Family Matters Conference. Again, the theme of the conference is lessons of resiliency, and no one is more resilient than our elders. So with that said, this is going to be a conversation. We have a boatload of questions, but really, we really want to hear from our elders who are up late with us. As a parent of a 3-year-old, I'm a little bushed, but I'm just so happy to be here with you all. And so with that said, I want to give the panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. And panelists, if while you're introducing yourselves, can you answer the question, what does being a grandparent mean to you, or a parent? So who'd like to start?
I think they're on mute.
How about you start, Susan? You're on mute.
Oh, there we are. Muted.
There you go.
All right, we all here?
Yeah.
Yep.
So Suz Atlas, my partner, Mary Groce, we live at Anderson Apartments. We are combined, a blended family of, oh my God, 7 kids and 6 grandkids. So please do not ask me to name them all.
Or list the birthdays.
Yeah,
Right?
no, that's what calendars are for.
Yes, we've been together 27 and a half years. And we started out, I had 4 and Suz has 3 kids. And we unfortunately had a journey ahead of time before we met at a lesbian coming out support group in Bala Cynwyd. And that we, again, 27 years, but the kids at the time, the youngest was 5, and the girls were with 3 teenage daughters, all in the house, and it was quite a journey. It was indeed. Yeah. But the kids are all doing well. We have the older ones had already flown the coop, and were out on their own. And the younger the children, the more they accepted our relationship and this situation. But we had each been married before and went through awful divorces and all sorts of things. And I had been out in 75 and my first was born during that marriage, which my husband turned out was also gay. But it was it was a difficult separation and divorce, and there was a lot of custody battling and just nasty things, very traumatic. And then to go through similar times again when we met, it was so good to find each other and to have that support. But we've been doing great. We've been, earning a living. We're both retired here at Anderson, and Suz has been going through a health crisis journey, and now we have 6 grandchildren whom we adore. They're spread out all over the country, from Napa, California, and Kansas, and Maryland, and here close by in the Philly area as well. So anyway, it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Mary. April?
Sure. I'm April Murdock. I live in Northeast Philly. I have 2 daughters and a son. Well, my son passed away 13 years ago at the age of 24. But my oldest daughter has 2 grandchildren that I see semi-regularly, I guess. It's a strained type of relationship, I guess, as far as they really, my grandchildren, my granddaughter who is 11 and my grandson who is 8, they don't have any idea who I am. My daughter came up with a nickname for me, which is Lola, which is Filipino for grandparent. Of course, they don't know that. But, you know, in my mind, the thing that goes through my head is the old Kink song, Lola, you know? So it's a little, yeah, right? Those who know that song, yeah, it was a little mind game for a while. But so they don't really, I'm not sure who they think I am in their heads. I guess I'm just some a family aunt or something. My daughter does not want me discussing it with my grandchildren until I'm ready, but I'm able to see them, and that's the important thing. You know, I'm in their lives, and you know, I get to see them, you know, a couple of times a month, and so it's a bit strained, you know. But my daughter did tell me that my granddaughter Penny is starting to ask, "Where's your daddy?" So the conversation is going. It's going to happen sooner or later, you know. I don't know if I agree with, you know, how she wants to handle it or not, but they're her children, so I will, you know, go along with the flow. I'm presently, you know, trying to move over to New Jersey so I could be even closer to them, which I think will, you know, help a bit. Being over here in Philadelphia, I only moved over here like 9 or 10 years ago when I had health issues. I had a stroke, and then I had a spinal cord injury, and I had become a paraplegic. And a little over a year ago, I had an operation on my spine, which gave me the use back of my right leg. And so I'm walking again, which is really, really cool, because I was in a wheelchair for 7 years. Crazy. So now that I can drive again and walk again, you know, when you can't walk or you can't drive, being in the city is a big plus all the way around. But because you have to drive over in New Jersey to really live there, it's not easy to get around. So now that I'm more mobile, you know, I'm trying to move back over near them, and so a couple of places in mind. We'll see how that works out. But yeah, it's a bit strained, you know. Okay. But I feel blessed for what I have, because of you know, I do know some people who some trans parents who don't get to see their children, let alone their grandchildren. You know, they're estranged from everybody. Like, I'm estranged from all my brothers. I don't see my brothers, but I do see my my grandkids, which is awesome. You know, so I want to be, you know, a part of their lives, and it will work out how it's supposed to work out, I guess. You know, it's kind of out of my hands. So but yeah, that's who I am, and that's how my life is going. And but yeah, so, but I'm glad to be a part of this panel. So thank you.
Well, thank you, April, for sharing, and I'm sorry for your loss of your son. But thank you so much for sharing your story. And moving on to Michael.
Us?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear. Oh, okay. This is our granddaughter Kaylee.
Hi, Kaylee.
I was there when she was born, and I always told her I was there, and I will always be there with her forever. She is the ultimate highlight of our lives. Not to say that our sons are not. We have 2 sons. They're adopted. Tony and I have been together for 37 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's that may be longer than some older than some people in this room.
Exactly.
I didn't even know that.
We're very lucky that at least once a week, one of them comes over to have dinner. Tonight happened to be Rob and Kaylee coming over for dinner, who only likes plain spaghetti. And we were watching What If, and we have a lovely time with her. We're doing coloring earlier and pencils. So we had a good time.
She's quite the artiste. We were very lucky. We had a commitment ceremony in 1986, and my entire family came. Tony had a different relationship with his mother at the time. She did not come, but his sister came. And then we got legally married. We're both from California. We got legally married in 2008. And then we renewed our vows on our 30-year anniversary on a transatlantic cruise across the Atlantic. Of our friends tease us about getting married a lot, but I think we got one more, and it's because I'd like to be married as Pennsylvanians. Because over the last couple of years, we've actually lived in Pennsylvania longer than we lived in California. Didn't want to admit it, but we're Pennsylvanians, and so I want to be married here as well. And then that's it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you also for sharing, and also we get to meet Kaylee. That was also a cool thing. But everyone, I think this is a great place to start our conversation, and hearing about all your different paths, the way that you've become grandparents, and all your different experiences as well. So we're gonna just jump into some of the questions. You can just answer as you feel. I really want to see this as a conversation that you play off each other, share memories. There may be things that has happened before probably I was even born, but I want to have a really great conversation. So my first question is, did you ever imagine yourself becoming a grandparent, and what is it like to be one?
To imagine ourselves being a grandparent, right?
You're on mute.
Well, I never wanted kids, much less grandchildren. And it's a very long story of how we ended up adopting, but we loved them to death. And so I was glad. Once Kaylee was born, I only wanted one grandchild.
I think we'll get another one
What?
in like 3 or 5 years.
No. No, you don't know.
A great laugh.
Mommy said she might try.
No, I'll have to talk to mommy. Our daughter-in-law is really like our daughter. And so I refer to her as our daughter because she's that close to us.
Nice.
Nice. Others, did you ever imagine yourself becoming a grandparent?
Me here? Me?
Anyone?
Did I ever imagine? No, I didn't really see it coming. It kind of took me by surprise. I didn't transition till my kids were out of high school. I waited until they were out of high school to transition. And so, you know, as the life of a trans person goes, you know, when I started, you know, when the grandchildren started to come, it was the kind of thing where it was my second chance kind of thing, to where, you know, I could be a better grandparent than I was a parent, because of, you know, all the rigors and trials that you go through being, you know, a trans parent, you know, somebody who's older when you transition, which is quite difficult. You know, it's not all about the trans person, you know, your children and everybody else is involved, and you have to think about them. And so But yeah, it's great though. I love it. You know, I think it's awesome. Yeah, I didn't ever imagine myself. No, I didn't see that coming. So it was quite nice.
Thank you, April.
That's a question I never thought of. Did I ever imagine being a grandparent? No,
I don't think
I
I ever
don't
did
think
either.
I ever imagined being a parent either. I was the
Yeah.
baby of the family. And as such, you're babied, at least in my family. So I never even thought of growing up.
Peter Pan here.
Right. Right. I mean, things just kind of happen, you know.
Right.
That's what you're told all your life. You're gonna grow up, get married, have kids, and okay.
You're a good daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never encouraged my kids to have
Yeah.
kids of their own because I know what a journey it is. If you don't want to, it would be horrible.
Yeah.
So, but they ended up having, they waited. I think all of them were in their 30s at least
Mhm.
before they had children. And they adore their kids. It's wonderful. And wow, it's wonderful to have grandchildren.
Yeah, but this pandemic has messed
Oh, the
everything.
pandemic has been so, I'm sure you all know, it's really been difficult. Yeah, you said it. Yeah. So,
We haven't
yeah,
seen the baby.
yeah, we haven't seen, the closest one is only, she's gonna be 2 in January. We've only seen her once since the pandemic started because they, obviously everyone was being extra careful. And Suze was in cancer treatment, so we had to be extra careful anyway. So
Yeah.
it's been very isolating during that time, but it is wonderful to have grandchildren. We really adore them. We got to know them better in some ways. I have 2 out in Napa, California, and I got to know them better on FaceTime
Yeah.
than I would have because they would have been busy with school and activities all last year, and they were all stuck at home, and so that really, in a way, it was a silver lining, shall we say?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have
Yeah.
incurable cancer, and it was really tough to have
Yeah.
Kaylee come over and to see her. There were long stretches when we didn't. But then we just jumped on top of things like the vaccinations and the booster shots and things like that, so that it really in order so that we could see her.
Yes, yeah, we're all vaccinated as soon as we could as well for that
Yeah.
reason. Yeah.
I know it's really hard to have a conversation nowadays without mentioning COVID and the way that it has impacted our relationships.
And we
with everything.
shouldn't avoid it.
It shouldn't. It's omnipresent. But to piggyback off of that question, so we all have our intersecting personalities. So lesbian, gay, trans, bi, the list goes on and on, man, woman. But what about this new identity that was brought upon you? So first you became a parent, and then you became a grandparent. So how did you like when you first learned that you were becoming a grandparent and you were getting this new title? How did that impact you?
Oh. Okay. I'll wait on that for a while.
That's okay.
I was very excited, and it turns out I had cancer surgery the day
Wow.
before. It was the 12th of November, and then the 13th was my first, my son's daughter was born, and it was something to hold on to really, plus Obama had just been elected.
Yeah.
And so it was like so much good stuff that helped counteract the scary stuff. And so anyway, it was beautiful. I had to wait like 2 months before I was able to see her. It was one of the California kids.
Hmm.
And the same, Jake was born. Suze's,
Well, we were there.
yeah, we were there for that. We were there for the very first grandchild to be born, which was very exciting and meant a
He's
lot.
18 now.
Yeah, he's a big football player now. So
I wasn't too happy to be called grandpa. Very, very vain. And I was trying to think of different things that you could call me. And I was really sort of, and I have to say unfairly, I didn't think that my son and daughter-in-law were actually ready. And so I was really kind of on them for a while. Then something clicked, and I knew that it would be okay, which is why I was at the birth, at her birth. And in between the birth, there was our daughter-in-law going to the hospital. And then she wasn't going to deliver right then. So the next day we went to our younger son's graduation from
Oh,
Temple.
wow.
And I was on the board of trustees of Temple then. So my husband, Tony, and I, he's an academic physician. And we got to be on stage and to actually present Chris with his diploma. And we got a standing ovation. It was amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Tony took Chris out to lunch while I got back in the car to go back to the hospital where she was delivered the next morning.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's intense.
You know, so many things in our lives.
That's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Are not planned. Things are not planned. They say stuff happens in threes. Well, you know, it's 3 today and 3 tomorrow and 3 the next day. And try and keep an even keel and not get too high or too low because you'll be bouncing off the walls.
That's true.
You know? And each of the grandkids calls me something else. It's whatever they wanted to call me, you know?
Yeah, they call Grandma Suze, or
GB.
I wrote a kid's book that I used Suze as a model. I call her GB, short for Grandma Butch. so, and so 1 of the 5-year-old calls her GB all the time. and my my biological grandkids, I remember when Lila was born, the one I had mentioned before. She always kind of looked at me. I said, "Can you say Grandmary?" I was trying to think of a name to call myself. And finally I called her the name I made up for my grandmother. I said, "Can you say Buckety?" And she went, "Buckety!"
Buckety? Is there a story behind that name?
Yeah.
I wasn't, well, I just come out and say it. I wasn't allowed to be there at the hospital when my grandchildren were born because the other immediate family people who were there, you know, it just would be, I don't want to use the word better because it's not better, more comfortable, you know, if I
For
wasn't there.
everybody else, yeah.
Yeah, comfortable for everybody else if I wasn't there. I guess it's the best way to put that because that's what it was. And so, but I kind of got like as close to instant as, you know, updates as you could possibly get in the age of the technology that we live in today, you know. And so I was able to, you know, throw pictures out, you know, when they were born on the Facebook and kind of celebrate their births that way, you know. Yeah, it's tough, but you know, like I said, you know, I'm in their lives, so you know, it's just one of those things that unfortunately comes sometimes when you're trans. But you know what? I mean, if you just keep at it and keep at it, it is getting better. It gets better all the time. So it's not like, you know, you just can't give up. That's the whole bottom line. You just can't give up on it, you know. And it has really, really, you know, gotten so much better. And so yeah, but that's my story with the births. So.
Again, thank you all for sharing. So I'm not sure if you know, or some of you don't know, that we are at a point in history that we have the most LGBT seniors ever that are still with us, and that really says a lot for, again, title of this conference is resiliency, and that all you've done and all you've gone through. So do you believe that the perception, I would imagine that, some of your friends in the LGBT community are maybe not be grandparents. If this is correct, how has your being a grandparent impacted your friendships with others in the community?
You want to take that?
We don't go in our groups when we're talking about things. A lot of people, number one, we're older, so we don't have a lot of family left of our age group or older. And even some of the younger ones have left us. I think we're the only people here, except one that has grandchildren. So we just don't bring it up all the time. People ask us how they are, and we'll go into picture mode and talk about them, and say what they're doing, but we don't bring it up.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's true. Yeah, it's interesting now. All of a sudden there was such a culture sea change when all of a sudden the gay community started having kids,
Right.
and technology and just the whole culture really changed quite a bit. And we're the same age with the women who were out as lesbians back in the 60s and 70s. Very often did not even consider having children. So, and they very often lost
Oops.
custody through a battle that I won't get into myself. And
you are.
just because, kind of, just because people were LGBT, they were, and there's still obviously a lot of prejudice, but anyway, it's different now. There's so many more people in the community. The younger people have children, and it's very different. And thank goodness. I mean, it's a beautiful group that you have with the family pride, and there was no such support back in the day.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
April or
I've
Michael?
actually,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I've actually a really good friends of mine. Basically, we all consider each other family. Lo and behold, they have a child who everybody calls Bo now, and he is identifying as male and going to school, and it's really become like, I'm like looked at as this, elder person, and okay, I mean, a lot of people don't make it to where we've made it to, so that's not so bad, but so I get to share a lot of stuff with Bo, and it's and I don't have the restrictions. Bo is maybe 7, 8. So it's wonderful because his parents are just, because I've been in their lives, they were completely loving and open, and so that has all worked out, great as far as, being, I don't want to say a grandparent to him, but because everybody we consider everybody family, it feels that way too, I actually see him more than I see my own grandkids. So that's kind of a very cool thing, and to be able to be there for another trans person at this young age is just, I just can't tell you how amazing that is, in of itself right there. So, and sometimes we have these conversations, just the two of us, and it just blows me away with, the knowledge, that he has, in the acceptance, and how different it is now compared to when we were younger and knew nothing. There was no internet, there was no information, and there was no, it was crazy. And I need to stop because I could go on all night about this. This is really like a big thing in my life. So, but yeah, so I wanted to put that in there though. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for putting that in there, April. And I'm sure as someone put in the chat that Bo really also appreciates that. Thank you. Michael?
I don't think that, I think that we, well, as we've gotten older, we don't do the things that we did when we met when we were in our 20s. That's in a while. And I think that we have transitioned from spending a lot of time with a lot of friends to spending with our family. That has become the paramount thing in our lives, to put our family first, our sons and our granddaughter and our daughter-in-law.
I think as you were saying earlier, it's hard to avoid the issues with COVID. You know, just our younger son, her uncle, was home with us for 5 months. He's a bartender in the city. And Rob, his brother, her dad, is working just to like be able to see them once every week or two for dinner. And we had dinners with, them with masks across the room, and we get takeout and we hang out. And now they're vaccinated. She's going to get hers, and it's
Yay!
Wonderful.
Terrific.
she's gotten her flu shot on our couch more than once. Unfortunately,
Well,
one
you
caused
get a
death.
great present.
And it's been a challenge this last couple of years, but just like Michael was saying, it's like just hanging out and just being together is really nice.
Yeah.
And we did not picture this. No.
Again, thank you all. So, as
I
Susan,
just have to say, Kaylee's got to get ready to go. Her dad's packing up, so
I think we saw him a few times.
Yeah.
he's been coming through, a little camera shy.
Daddy, mine.
Daddy can say goodbye when he's actually ready to go.
Yeah.
So why don't you go get your stuff done?
See ya.
He's a sweet
Guys.
guy.
So I guess this is a really great time for a quick transition. So as Susan said, we should ignore that the pandemic is happening. That's why we're kind of here in this virtual setting right now. And with that said, as myself, I'm sure we got a lot of TV time in Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus. There's so much things going on. But with that said, do you believe the perception of family has changed in the media? If you got watching all these shows, if so, how? And if not, why not? And why is it important for LGBTQ families to be represented?
Oh,
And what's missing? There's a lot
so
there.
important.
Yes.
That's really so important. Just not everybody is on board with people who are different from themselves, and other people hate people that are different from themselves. But the more visible we can be, it's like what was the name of the TV show? The Four People.
Oh,
God.
Will and Grace?
Will and Grace. that brought normalization of gay people into people's homes.
Yeah, it means a lot.
And and if they happen to watch it, and you could make jokes, or you could throw things at the TV, or you could actually open your mind and see that they go through the same things that everybody else does. They have the same problems, the same happiness, the same, just people.
Right.
I think it's really important to be visible. Mary and I go out, and I know we live in the neighborhood, but we hold hands, we hold on to each other. Some people don't like it. Most people don't care. And that's the greatest place we can be, is if people see you being gay and they don't care.
Right.
That would be wonderful.
Right. Well, that's thanks too to the laws changing finally.
That's true.
Right. We have a grandson who is, he'll be 10 in February, and he's been wearing nail polish to school. Now his hair is very long. We don't know where he's going with this, but he's being completely accepted by his family and his schoolmates, it seems. And it's very different environment. And part of that's because you can see us in the media, at least to some extent now, and that wasn't there before. So, but there's big backlash, of course, we won't get into that, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Very
wow.
good. Well, I will.
Okay, go for it.
Brave.
Well, I mean, we just got done 4 years of somebody who really, really just loved trashing trans people.
Yeah, it really set us back. Yeah.
So basically day one, he was booting us out of the military and, and it was just, going down. And then, just this the voting, that went on
Right,
in Virginia, there was this, there was actually this couple who were going into, the girls' room at a high school having sex, and they suddenly turned it into a trans thing, and it had nothing to do with transgender. It was just what they were doing. It was just this guy and girl, and he did it 2 schools, and and so right away they turned it into a trans thing. But fortunately, to go along with the narrative we're talking about, a lot of people are really going to bat for the LGBTQ plus community, and I see a lot of even commercials about it, where with trans people and how you treat them and get to know them. And I catch segments on different channels all the time now, and there's Netflix does a lot of shows, Hulu does, so there really is, it's changing, even as bad as that guy was for 4 years beating on us so bad, we still managed to have people, we're having our back and new, and it's growing, and things are looking so much better. And of course, I mean, Biden's always been, well, I shouldn't say always, but lately, since Obama, because he is actually the one who changed Obama's mind,
Yeah.
So, you got to give him that, So, it was, it's, I'm shocked that it is as good as it is coming off of Trump for what it was, for as bad as he was beating on us, and so yeah, I think it's getting better and better. And like I was talking about with Bo earlier, just how he's able to, do that in a town in South Jersey that I couldn't have done it. I'd never gotten away with it. So, yeah, the world's it's changing for the better. It's great.
The conversation certainly
Thank you.
to the forefront.
Michael?
A question.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'll keep my eye on my son and granddaughter. Okay, what's going on? Oh, it's closed. He comes to this, it's closed here. So his clothes aren't dry yet. So, they're figuring things out. So I was looking at that. I was paying attention, but.
Oh, there's 2 of you there. The other one can answer.
You answer.
Media representation. Help them out, Tariem. Media representation of our families.
It's media representation.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were always eagle-eyed about that. So there were series in the 70s that had some LGBT characters on it, and definitely in the 80s. But there was a show called Brothers, and it had a gay brother on it, and it was in the 80s, something like that. I mean,
Soap.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Soap, yeah.
Oh, well, no, there was Soap also. But Soap got a little bit disappointing for me because Jody was gay, but then he had sex with a woman, and then he tried to be a parent, and then I think he may have.
Then he got amnesia. It became a whole thing.
It was a thing, and this show, Brothers, the kid was gay from the beginning to the end of the show. There was no trying to fix him or anything like that.
Right.
No accidental discovery. He was gay. And so there were shows like that. And then in some of my soap operas, One Life to Live in the 80s had young gay characters on that. And then in All My Children, they had some too. Soaps are soaps, but they have been very progressive about things, from LGBT things to women's choices. They've been really groundbreaking in that way. And I'm a big soap fan, so I got to see a lot of that. So I had noticed representation early on, and that made me, you know, feel, I wouldn't say better at myself, because in my family, you know, we always knew that's what I was, and that was it. My mother was a very strict Catholic, but she said, yeah, I'm Catholic, and I have a gay son, and that's that. She loved her children. I probably got that more from my mom than from my mom and my dad, from anything else.
Nice.
I had an idea and I quickly forgot it.
Sorry, I was also looking at Brothers. I was looking for 5 seasons too.
Yes. When you looked it up, when did it start? I mean, I couldn't remember the time.
It went from 84 to 88.
Yeah, I mean, it was there, and the guy was gay the entire time. It was terrific.
All right.
Sorry, the
I-
wonders of Google. I was curious.
I think the more celebrities and sports people, they come out and say, here I am,
Deal with it.
deal with it. You know, this is me. You
Right.
see me.
That's why
you
I'm
see me,
wearing.
you know, catch passes and throw balls and tennis rackets, but it's me and you like me. So there. You know, and the more
Michael's wearing
people-
the gay NFL player's jersey.
Oh, nice.
Who is it?
Nasib?
First guy to come out openly.
Carl. Yeah, Carl and the Raiders.
He's got his jersey on. That was awkward, but sorry for the plumber's crack there too. But
No.
I'm not quite sure what you were doing.
Your other half helped. Your other half helped you out, so it was very appropriate.
37 and a half years. Got it back.
Fabulous.
Got your back.
That's fabulous.
Not to mention women's soccer.
Women's soccer. Yeah, I
Hey.
know there-
Well, yes.
Yay.
There's also in the chat, Frank put in a comment, or Frank and Stephen, about speculating in music about, you know, like Elton John or Freddie Mercury. I would add Barry Manilow to that list.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what Jake said to his friend.
I actually
There-
even remember telling my girlfriend in college, how do you know Melissa Etheridge is gay? And she's like, have you ever been to a concert? Because every single person there is a lesbian. That's how I know.
Lesbians and allies.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Barry Manilow at the Continental Baths playing for Bette Midler.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my first friend who came out had moved to New York City and told me all about Barry Manilow and Bette Midler and the Baths and all that, the whole world. It was very exciting.
It was a great scene. I was 18, and it was just
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
And we were talking about things changing when our eldest grandson he was in junior high. So what's that, 13 or 14?
Mhm.
And he was always a big boy. He plays center now at Bucknell. And so he's about 13, and some kid was teasing him that his mother looked like a lesbian. So Jake went up to his full height and he said to the kid, oh yeah, my mother's not a lesbian, but my grandmoms are.
Aw.
So yeah,
Well done.
yeah.
So I have just maybe 2 more questions, but I also want to be able to take some questions from the audience as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
So one question. So while everyone's experiences and journeys towards starting a family is different, do you have any advice for anyone coming up who is starting to think about this? What do you, and basically saying, what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier?
Mm.
Oh,
Lots.
Well, yeah, I don't know where to start with that.
Lots and lots.
Because no matter what we know now, we could not have done it back then.
Point.
Things were
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Right.
Over 50
Women
years
were,
ago.
lesbians were getting thrown down the stairs at City Hall. you know.
Literally, right.
Even though we know right now things are better, we couldn't have done what we do now then.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would advise people looking to be parents now to make sure they don't give up their own selves. They know who they are, and it's part of their journey. But it's I was quite young, I'm 22 when I got pregnant the first time, and a very young, naive 22, and it was very difficult to kind of sort through who I was and try to come to terms with my own identity over the next several years, and still working on it. But I think that's so important for, like I said, my own kids kind of waited till they were established in a career and knew what they wanted, and they really were devoted to the thought of having a child. And I think that's really important to include yourself in the equation. So.
Mhm.
Well said.
Yeah, I think if anything, yeah, being your authentic self, I wish, like she was saying, it's impossible to, what would I change? I would change everything, but you couldn't,
Right.
you don't, the technology was missing. And, all I knew when I was younger is I thought I was broken, to be honest with you. I mean, there was no answers anywhere to be found, yeah, and so, but today that's all changed, and yeah, just work at being who you are, and is the most important thing. And right next to that, I have to say that, being public, being out there for, show up and be there for everybody else who's still, not quite ready to come out, because they're still scared and all that, because all that time that you lose once you do come out, and in my case anyhow, I know a lot of other people said they always regret that they didn't come out sooner, but it's so scary to do. So the more people who are out there, and the more people who are fighting, and educating others, and which is another big thing, I mean, and you can't educate if you're not public, it's like, you have to be there to educate.
Very good point.
And so, yeah, it's all that stuff, wrapped into one. Is one thing that the pandemic kind of ruined in a way, took that away from being out on the street, because I was very involved with protesting all the time. So, it kind of took that away, but it's coming back. But yeah, I mean, but that's the best advice I can give, and yeah, if I could change, definitely, I would have changed everything, I wish I could have, should have.
Should have, right.
Right, how it goes.
We're also made up of our experiences too, so
But I'm happy. That's what matters, right?
that's what matters.
So I think the world is very different now, and for young and middle-aged people thinking about having kids, it's the same discussions that straight people have about having kids.
Mhm.
How many? The school systems are way more open, at least in the Delaware Valley. If you live in some parts of the country, it's not as open, but that is
Getting
becoming
closer.
way less and less. And so I think it's the same discussions and the same concerns. I think the children, like your grandchildren, it's like these are lesbian grandparents, and they're very cool with this, and it's a very different world. And I think we have to give the younger people more credit to be able to handle this and do it. So I don't think people have to have like really big decisions or discussions about being LGBT, having kids, other than having kids.
Right.
And I also think
Good.
that you do not be scared of
The sooner
surprises.
the world learns we all have the same wants, desires, dreams, and as everybody else on the planet, you know, all that will stop.
And a small aside, I don't know if Kaylee's listening, but she's still here, but like as like two male grandparents, the hardest thing for me was when we were watching her, and it's like, which bathroom do we take her to when we're at the mall? And how to do that.
Yeah.
Those kind of things that, you know, that was a whole new construct. But, you know, we figured it out and it was all okay.
She figured it out.
Yeah.
One day she said, I want to go to the ladies' room. And I said, okay. I may have overreacted a tad. It turned out okay.
You're here. You're still here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question, but
I'm sorry, one thing. I really wanted to emphasize about surprises. Things can surprise you, things that you just, even if you sit down with a planner for 10 years, something may happen that's not on the plan.
A lot.
Be ready for
Yeah.
surprises. And if you've made that initial decision to go forward, you go forward. You know, surprise, something happens. If that something happening doesn't interfere with your core plan to have children, take the surprise and go with it. You're gonna be okay. Somehow you'll figure it out, or your family will figure it out, or you'll read about it. But if you make the decision, then go forward.
that is amazing advice, and thank you for that, especially as a young parent. I have one more question, but I want to see if the audience has a few questions too before I ask my final question and we end our session. So audience, do you have any questions for our panel? You can just raise your hand and speak if you'd like.
I'm going to get close enough to read the chat.
Oh, sorry, I'll start.
Go.
Brady Bunch, yeah.
Yeah, that was my comment, Suze, when you were talking about your blended family. I wrote Brady Bunch is what it reminded me of. And
Yeah.
I do see Carla has their hand up, Tariem.
Oh, Carla, you can go.
Hi, thank you all for sharing your story. This is Carla. I was wondering, like, during those moments when you felt very low in earlier parts of, I guess, your journey as being grandparents or being parents or thinking about parenthood, what was it that kept you going to embody more of yourself without, I don't know, without putting yourself in danger?
Good question, Carla.
Oh. Wow.
So what, not quite understanding the question.
Yeah, I remember one thing I could answer that with is when I decided to come out to my kids. My daughters were like 11, 12, 13, around that age, two daughters, and my son's on either end of them. And I decided I needed to be my authentic self, like you were saying, and that was the best thing I could do for them, was to be true to myself and to be therefore a role model and not hiding myself. My thought was, oh, it'll be hard for my kids to see who I really am, that I'm a lesbian. And then it was, well, what if one of them is a lesbian and just their role model hid herself all her life? It would be a horrible thing. So that helped me become kind of follow the path into the light and to be who I am, and to not, and plus all the depression that goes with hiding and not being out and not being who we are. So that's definitely yeah, part of that equation.
Oh, thank you.
I'd just like to say, like, from my experience, I'm a family doc in the burbs, and I had a very negative mother, and worried about her with my experience, and from talking with a lot of people over the years, there's this fear of what happens when I come out, and what's the worst case scenario, and what's going to happen. But sort of like not being honest and true to yourself it really weighs on you over
Yeah.
time. And I would say, and I won't say 100%, and I won't say that there aren't bad outcomes, but I would say 90% of the time that I have experienced and seen with people, it is so much more positive than people expect. And so you end up being, the stories I've seen from patients and friends is like, well, we knew, and we're okay, and you're okay, and we still love you.
If I could say something, the theme of tonight's presentation is resiliency. April and Michael, myself, Mary, we've all had health issues. That kind of helps you along to know that, how can I say this? We all know we could not wake up tomorrow morning. That could happen. But those of us who have been ill are fighting to stay alive and to recover from our injuries. And know that you kind of know what's important in your life, and being yourself and answering questions from the kids. Honestly, I expected more questions from them, but the grandchildren seem okay. You're a lesbian, big deal. And the older ones went, oh my goodness, you're my mother, fine.
Kind of.
Some of them are still adjusting, but they're okay. They make more jokes than anything else, which
Your
is
kids.
the way that's my kid. No, she's dead, just step over her, we'll finish dinner. That kind of jokes in our family. But yeah, back to resiliency, you learn that as you get older. You learn, to deal with what life gives you.
Yeah, we're all survivors here.
Yeah, I mean, we're on resilience, and I'll just put this out real quick. I have lived through some of trans people's worst nightmares. I am an attempted murder survivor from 2007. When I was shot twice, and which is what paralyzed me, and all, and everything that I went through that was connected with that. And all I can do is be honest with myself, because of how unhappy I was before. And I mean, the murder of trans women is just astronomical. I'm one of the luckiest ones. But to be who I am today, somebody would say to me, would you go through it all over again if you had to live through everything you had to live through, and you don't know if you're going to survive? Yeah, you do that because that's who you are. It's the people who tried to kill me, they're the ones who have the issues. They're the ones who are the problem. It had nothing to do with deserve or what it's worth. It's it's just a society we live in, and because the question had asked about safety and stuff like that, I think, if I remember right. And yeah, you worry about it, you're concerned about it, and you always look at things that that's the kind of stuff that happens to everybody else. It's not going to happen to me. It's But hey, let me tell you what, it happened to me. And, fortunately, I'm still here, so
Mhm.
too bad for them. Right? So,
You showed them.
You showed them.
I showed them. That's right. That's how you show them you survive if you can, right? And yeah, so,
Exactly.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did have one question, which was, what wisdom would you like to pass down? And are there role models or events you like for us to know about? But I believe Carla pretty much asked that question. You all did an amazing job of answering it beautifully. So I really thank you all. And I myself have learned a lot from this experience. And Michael, like I have Brothers loaded right now, and I see that it's on IMDb, so I may watch it later. Uh, and with that said, we're at the 9:17 mark. So actually, thank you and you panelists as well as you guests for sticking around a little longer. And I just want to say thank you for just sharing your stories with us. They're so important about the work that you have done and the things that we have so much to learn. And just again, just thank you for being here. And thank you for being on this panel this evening.
Well, thank you for
Thank you.
having this.
Thank you for putting this together. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you panelists so much. And to answer the question in the chat, we actually were, before the pandemic started, having regular sort of intergenerational meetups at the Anderson Apartments where Susan and Mary live. And want to
love
get back
that.
to that eventually. Yeah, it was fantastic. And I do think that Philly Family Pride is absolutely going to continue this kind of programming. So I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. I did just put a link in the chat for folks to do an eval. So if you could do a little quick eval of the session tonight. And then also just a reminder, tomorrow night we're doing becoming a foster parent, adoption options, and then we're going to do making connections, like a mixer for LGBTQ parents, prospective parents, and grandparents, of course, welcome as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll leave the meeting
That's
open
what's
if people want to keep
Rob.
chatting a little bit. So I'm not going to just cut everybody off, but you're welcome to stay in the room, so to speak. And as if we were, in a space, I wouldn't just turn the lights off and close the door. So feel free, feel free to, feel free to stay for a few minutes if you like. But thanks again.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Thank
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Kelsey.
Always a pleasure.
Mwah.
Well,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go.